Prince Visits the King by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. The little prince found himself in the neighborhood of the asteroids 325, 326, 327, 328, 329, and 330. He began, therefore, by visiting them in order to add to his knowledge. The first of them was inhabited by a king. Clad in royal purple and ermine, he was seated upon a throne which was at the same time both simple and majestic.
"Ah, here is the subject,"
exclaimed the king when he saw the little prince coming. And the little prince asked himself,
how could he recognize me when he had never seen me before?
He did not know how the world is simplified for kings. To them, all men are subjects.
"Approach, so that I may see you better,"
said the king, who felt consumingly proud of being at last a king over somebody. The little prince looked everywhere to find a place to sit down, but the entire planet was crammed and obstructed by the king's magnificent ermine robe. So he remained standing upright, and since he was tired, he yawned.
"It is contrary to etiquette to yawn in the presence of a king,"
the monarch said to him.
"I forbid you to do so." "I can't help it. I can't stop myself,"
replied the little prince, thoroughly embarrassed.
"I have come on a long journey, and I have had no sleep." "Ah, then,"
the king said,
"I order you to yawn. It is years since I have seen anyone yawning. Yawns to me are objects of curiosity. Come now, yawn again. It is an order." "That frightens me. I cannot any more,"
murmured the little prince, now completely abashed. Replied the king.
"Then I order you sometimes to yawn and sometimes to..."
He sputtered a little and seemed vexed, for what the king insisted upon was that his authority should be respected. He tolerated no disobedience. He was an absolute monarch. But because he was a very good man, he made his orders reasonable.
"If I ordered a general,"
he would say, by way of example,
"if I ordered a general to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not obey me, that would not be the fault of the general. It would be my fault." "May I sit down?"
came now a timid inquiry from the little prince.
"I order you to do so,"
the king answered him, and majestically gathered in a fold of his ermine mantle. But the little prince was wondering. The planet was tiny. Over what could this king really rule?
"Sire,"
he said to him,
"I beg that you will excuse my asking you a question." "I order you to ask me a question,"
the king hastened to assure him.
"Sire, over what do you rule?" "Over everything,"
said the king with magnificent simplicity.
"Over everything?"
The king made a gesture which took in his planet, the other planets, and all the stars.
"Over all that?"
asked the little prince.
"Over all that,"
the king answered, for his rule was not only absolute, it was also universal.
"And the stars obey you?" "Certainly they do,"
the king said.
"They obey instantly. I do not permit insubordination."
Such power was a thing for the little prince to marvel at. If he had been master of such complete authority, he would have been able to watch the sunset, not 44 times in one day, but 72, or even 100, or even 200 times, without ever having to move his chair. And because he felt a bit sad as he remembered his little planet which he had forsaken, he plucked up his courage to ask the king a favor.
"I should like to see a sunset. Do me that kindness. Order the sun to set." If I ordered a general to fly from one flower to another like a butterfly, or to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not carry out the order that he had received, which one of us would be in the wrong?
The king demanded.
The general or myself? You,
said the little prince firmly.
Exactly. One must require from each one the duty which each one can perform.
The king went on.
Accepted authority rests first of all on reason. I have the right to require obedience because my orders are reasonable. Then my sunset?
The little prince reminded him, for he never forgot a question once he had asked it.
You shall have your sunset. I shall command it. But according to my science of government, I shall wait until conditions are favorable.